Hi, everybody. Welcome back to superdacob Podcasts. Today, I am joined with none other than my friend Eaumilio. Hello, Eaumilio. How are you doing?
Hi, everyone. How are you doing?
Eaumilio is, just as me, a huge lover of perfumes, and we actually met online through the perfumes, through YouTube, through all this social extravaganza. And Eaumilio also loves Chanel fragrances, and today's topic is Chanel. We will be dissecting and talking and sharing our love for none other than Chanel's Coco perfume. Eaumilio, before we go on, I want to know from you if you want to share with us all the places we can find you on social media for whoever is interested. Like, which outlets would you like to share?
I would only like to share my Instagram. It's Eaumilio with an X. EMXLIO.
Okay, perfect. So I will definitely also link that underneath this video so you guys can follow Eaumilio on Instagram. The link will be in the description box under the video. So just for you guys to know, like Eaumilio and I also follow each other on also on Twitter and on Instagram, and I saw once a photo that Eaumilio posted of Coco, the perfume, with a set of several bottles. There was at first I thought 3, but he corrected me to 2. The monolith bottle of the eau de parfum plastic container containing the bottle inside, and then there were other concentrations there as well. And I was like, okay, he loves Coco. When was the first time you discovered Coco?
Maybe 5 years ago, but I'm not really sure.
You see, this is interesting because of all the Chanel perfumes, this is the one that I also don't really remember. It's like a Mandela effect fragrance. It's one of those perfumes where all of a sudden it's in your life, but you don't know when exactly it happened, because I also don't have a memory of when my first time was. I find that so fascinating. But you do remember 5 years.
Not maybe 5 years, but I'm not really sure.
Because
that's the number that's coming up in my head.
Yeah. I just know it kind of made its way through into my life. I do vaguely remember that my mom liked Coco. This I remember. And I know that she had a big bottle of it. But then again, I was really small. Like, I was a child. So the perspective, like the size of things looks bigger when you're smaller. So maybe the bottle wasn't that big, but to me it seemed like a huge bottle back then. And I always felt the memory that I have of me smelling it out of her bottle was something magical and very from a faraway land. Now, later on in life, I would kind of discover the terminology for that type of fragrance, as in, oh, it's an Oriental. But as a kid, I didn't know that it was meant to smell of the Orient. And actually, still today, it smells to me as of far away, but it doesn't smell of Orient. I don't know. How is it to you?
I don't really categorize perfumes like that, like Oriental or Shipra. I mean, I do, but to me, it's more about the notes, the combination of notes, and the feeling that the perfume gives. It doesn't really, I don't automatically connect it to a perfume family.
So how would you describe Coco?
Coco. I always describe Coco as opium légère, like the light version of opium, like the more friendly version of opium.
I mean, if we really analyze it that way, it makes kind of sense. Opium came out in 1978, and Coco came out in 84. So Coco kind of is a Chanel attempt at recreating the success of opium.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
You know, so, and in fact, we see it, but since opium represents the end of the 70s and we're kind of catapulting into the 80s, it's a different time. And Chanel is already kind of, okay, we've arrived into the 80s, it's 1984. we have this 80s glamour, but we don't have that disco era there that opium has. So it's kind of an 80s version of opium, maybe.
To me, yes, definitely.
But how would you describe opium then?
Opium is a darker version of Coco.
And ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. Well, that was, okay. Coco is a lighter version of opium, and opium is a darker version.
Oh, Coco. Yes. Oh, yes.
So we're just talking about light and dark. We're not talking about anything else. It's as simple as that. But maybe because it's such a vague description that the memory of it is also so vague. I don't know what to tell you, because I've been thinking about this, and I mentioned to you before we started filming, or recording rather, this notion that I have of Coco being a presence that's fading from the memory of many. Not Coco the woman, Coco the perfume, you guys. And I don't know why that is. There's something about the smell. It smells like a memory of something to me.
So I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna get back to Coco, but first, my first memory of opium is going to high school and not being able to afford the actual perfume. So I always I used to go to these shops that sell like copies of original perfumes, and I will always get opium. Maybe we should just talk about coconut opium.
Well, no, I think it's okay that we touch base on both, because they do together. I mean, they come from kind of a similar background, I think. So I definitely think that I think it legitimizes one the other. I know absolutely no issue talking about opium together with Coco.
But I didn't want to make it about opium because we're talking about Coco, you know.
Yes, but it's interesting that opium was your first approach to Coco.
Yeah.
And I think that's important. But also, I keep kind of going back and forth between the two.
Mm-hmm.
And when Coco... so I do have the 3 formulations of it, the eau de toilette, the eau de parfum, and the parfum, but I'm all into creams as well, and I've realized that I tried the Coco cream, not the body lotion, the cream, and then I tried the opium cream. Which one came first, which one I tried first, it doesn't even matter, but comparing the two, I bought opium. I didn't buy Coco.
Mm-hmm.
But when it came to getting the perfumes, I first bought Coco and then opium.
Yeah.
So I think it's fascinating that these two perfumes, they're kind of symbiotic. So what I'm trying to say is, there are those days when I put on the opium cream and I spray on Coco. I didn't buy the Coco cream because I found it too watery. It's not compact enough for the price it costs. And Chanel sells 150 ml containers, while YSL of opium sells 200 ml, and the price is the same for both. So Chanel tricks you double, and the smell of it is kind of damp, of the Coco cream, while opium's cream, it's so rich and plump that it kind of wins. But I keep comparing the two. So I totally think that you're right in comparing both.
Okay.
So your first memory was of the dupe of opium.
Exactly. I used to buy the dupe of opium when I was going to high school. And then years after that, I discovered opium. I tried the original opium and Coco too.
And were they similar to you?
In a way, yes. I've always seen Coco as a luminous, a fresher version of opium.
Interesting. And now that you've also tried the pure perfume of opium, would you still say that's true?
Yes, the pure perfume is closer to Coco, even it's more similar than the EDP of opium or the EDT.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that Chanel herself would have approved of Coco?
I don't know. I don't know. Because Coco is not really typical Chanel, in my opinion. Compared to number 19, for example, or Cristal, it's not that type of fragrance. It's, yeah.
So, and now we're going to get to that point where we kind of disagree on what is warm and what is not warm.
Mm-hmm.
but but you think that Coco is then, as opposed to number 19 or Cristal, you think Coco is warm?
It's warmer.
But do you think that 19 and Cristal are warm?
Definitely not.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
No.
But what about number 22?
It's both, actually. It's warm and cold at the same time.
Yeah.
And dusty.
I love that dustiness in number 22.
Oh, yes.
And if you were to think about the moment when you then first actually purchased Coco, do you remember that?
I do remember that. It was from eBay. A used bottle. A 35 ml used bottle.
Of the Eau de Parfum then?
Eau de Parfum, yes.
And how long ago was that?
Probably 5 years ago.
And what was the experience then? I mean, opening up the first time and kind of spraying it on and having it.
It was challenging for me because I wasn't used to perfumes like that. I was using mostly celebrity fragrances when I was younger and very easy to wear perfumes. So it was a bit of a shock to me. But I learned to like it and love it.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely... Would you call it... And this is where we get to this point where I don't like to age perfumes, but in the case of Coco, would you call it a mature fragrance?
No. I don't think so. I think it's timeless and ageless. And so are many other perfumes, if not all of them.
Yeah, I agree with you. Which, do you have any body products, bath products from Coco?
I do. I have the shower gel and the soap.
And how would you describe the shower gel?
The shower gel is it's like a more citrusy and luminous take on Coco. And it's more ambery and sweet in a way. And the soap is, I mean, all soaps have a similar smell to them. It's like this woody scent. The soap of Coco is drier and woodier. It's closer to the eau de toilette, in my opinion,
Yeah,
which I don't have.
Yeah, I agree. I have the eau de toilette here. Actually, let's... Smelling it now. I have the soap too, you guys. Let's take the soap.
I'm gonna spray it on too.
Yeah, it's definitely close. The soap is closer to the eau de toilette, but that note that you describe as the woody, that the soap has like a woody note, I would say it's like
Is it a sandalwood? It smells like a sandalwood to me.
Yeah, sandalwood. I don't know if it's sandalwood. Well, I mean, Coco has sandalwood in the base, and civet, but obviously civet is probably not present in the current formulation.
But there are traces of civet. I think so. I mean, it's not. Of course, it's not real civet, but there is a chemical copy of that smell.
It's so fascinating when I smell them side by side, the soap and the eau de toilette. So if I don't smell the soap, I just smell the eau de toilette. It has a kind of like a dusty smell to it, and a little bit drier. But if I smell the soap, that is even more dusty and even more dry. If I smell the soap first and I inhale it, and then I smell the eau de toilette smells like sweet chocolate afterwards. It's like if you've smelled like kind of almost the bitter, dry direction of the soap, and afterwards you smell the eau de toilette smells much sweeter.
I'm actually not that familiar with the eau de toilette. I've only smelled it. I've never actually worn it.
It's you know, some people describe it, the eau de toilette of Coco, as being, and again, here is another point we touch base on gender and perfumes. I mean, my stance on that is perfumes no gender, they're genderless, but absolutely right. But a lot of people do state that within this trio of the perfume, eau de parfum, and the parfum, eau de parfum, eau de toilette, the eau de toilette is the more masculine smelling of the three, whatever that means. But I think people say that about the eau de toilette because the eau de toilette has a drier note to it.
And it's woodier.
Yes.
That's probably why, yeah.
It's woodier and drier. And by drier, I mean it's like Egoist minus the sweetness. The sandalwood in Egoist has almost like a licoricey. By licorice, I don't mean the smell of licorice. I mean, have you ever tried the licorice root, like sucked on the root of licorice?
I have not. No.
Okay, so it's much different from the the licorice gummy bears and stuff, because so it's not artificial. Obviously, it's completely natural. But the licorice wood, when you put it in your mouth, and in Spain, you can buy it everywhere, like the root, the licorice root, and people suck on it. It's like a thing there, and it leaves a dry, sweet aftertaste in your mouth, which is really good. But it's sweet and dry at the same time. It's not like a candy sweet. It doesn't make your mouth sticky. It doesn't make you thirsty. It doesn't make you think like, oh, you gotta brush your teeth because the acidity in your mouth is really going up because the sugar is pure acid. No, it's rather a soft, sweet dryness. And that's what the eau de toilette kind of delivers. It doesn't smell like licorice, but it delivers that aftertaste in your palate of the dry sweetness of licorice root if you suck on it. This I do not get in the eau de parfum. Let's smell the eau de parfum here.
The eau de parfum is really luminous in a way. I really love that opening.
You know what? Now that I'm like really smelling them, I think to compare the eau de toilette and eau de parfum, the eau de toilette is like having a handful of, if you were to dry out cocoa and create dust out of it, a body powder. Like it smells like the body powder version of cocoa. And then you put, that's eau de toilette. And then on that, you pour oil and water and or just oil, and it becomes wet. And that wetness is the eau de parfum. To me, the eau de parfum smells like a moist version of the eau de toilette.
Yeah, I can see that.
It's like wet glass aftertaste.
Wet glass.
Is that bizarre? Like wet glass, but with a powdery note.
Yeah.
And eau de toilette is, yeah, it's dry. It's not glass. It's dry dust. I
really need to get into the eau de toilette. Last time I tried it, I really liked it. I actually need to get it. I really need to.
And the only thing about the eau de toilette I'm not a fan of is the bottle.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It's quite ugly once you take the lid off. It doesn't...
It's like Cristal, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. The eau de parfum, yeah.
Yeah, it has that weird plasticky kind of like steps on it. It doesn't look good when you take the lid off. And when you put it on, it's... I get where they were trying to make it look like sleek, but it doesn't really work.
It ain't sleek when you open it.
Exactly. When you open it, it's like ratchet. And the lid inside is like old school Chanel, like it's really on the inside of the lid, now modern lids with magnetic stoppers. Then you look inside, and the lid inside has the logo of the
Yeah.
brand. Yeah, that ain't the case with these old school Chanel lids. They're like really skanky on the inside. Like the plastic is all.
I don't mind them as long as the perfume is good. I'm okay with it.
Sure, fine, but then don't charge us the money for an extra packaging if you're not giving us the packaging.
True. True.
Which is not the case. I'm looking at the. Yeah, it's also kind of busted. But the exterior of the Eau de Parfum refillable. Now that's a bottle. The monolith. And let me tell you something. It's just a matter of time before they discontinue it, because like there's no reason to keep it.
Yeah.
They're cutting everything. They're cutting the amount of products that they're selling. The range is shortening. They're not making the pure perfume spray anymore, just a splash. And so keeping an extra refillable version of the Eau de Parfum when they also have the classic Eau de Parfum, like I don't think they're going to keep, I don't know. I think for them it's all about the money. If they keep selling it, they'll keep making it.
Do you think that Coco will last long? Do you think it's gonna live long?
Oh, they're not going to discontinue the perfume.
But do you think they're going to?
No.
In the future? No?
No, I think they're going to keep Coco.
Let's hope so.
Well, in our lifetime they will. I don't know what's going to happen in 100 years. But Coco is definitely...
I mean, it's not a bestseller. People don't wear it. Don't care about it. Only like it's cult following.
Yeah, it's a bizarre thing, but this is the reason why I wanted to make this podcast with you about Coco, because I've realized that it's like a myth of a perfume. It's like everybody knows about it, but nobody really wears it. I think it deserves more attention than it's getting, because it's a perfume in its own right, even though we've already both kind of realized that it is in many ways a post-opium era perfume.
Yes.
Without opium paving the way, Coco would have never existed.
Absolutely not.
But then you know what I'm surprised that after Dior made Poison, and Poison was such a huge success, like as huge a success as Opium was when it came out, Chanel didn't try to copy Poison. But maybe that has to do with the fact that Poison and Coco came out like almost the same year, so maybe there was no interest in Chanel pushing yet another fragrance, because they're very they very sparingly release new fragrances, for the mass market at least. So, but I always wondered if Poison came out before Coco, would have Coco smelled different after,
Probably, because Poison's impact was huge, in my opinion. I don't know. Maybe.
I'm thinking if Chanel released anything similar to no, nothing. I mean, nothing that intense came out from Chanel as Poison. I would say Coco is the strongest for Chanel standards, but the only perfume that kind of went stronger than Coco, well, two perfumes, but they're from the Les Exclusives range, are Coromandel and Misia.
Oh, okay. Misia. You mean the eau de toilette?
Yeah, and by stronger I don't mean better. I just mean like
projection.
More. Yeah, like more intense. I think only Coromandel and Misia are like more decadent in their smell than Coco.
I think number 22 comes close to Coco when it comes to longevity and projection I think it's quite strong, actually.
Yes, but we're talking about what comes after Coco.
Oh, what comes after Coco? Okay.
Time-wise, yeah. So what I want to say is Chanel never made, after they released Coco, they never made something afterwards that is as in kind of opulent and decadent as, except for Coromandel and Misia.
Coromandel and Misia, yeah.
But number 22 in its original formula, but also Cuir de Russie in its original formulation is but then that's Ernest Beau, and those are the 20s. It was a different time.
Egoist is also bombastic. The vintage version, it's so strong. Really strong.
It's really strong, and you know that there was also an intense version of it, and there was also a Cologne version of Egoist. Mm-hmm. So like when it was first released, they had this whole range of different concentrations, and now it's all gone. And now the eau de toilette actually smells like a light version of an eau de cologne.
It's really light, and it doesn't last at all.
No, it doesn't. I had a soap, an Egoist soap. Really good. And like many years ago, I had the deodorant stick.
I had it too, and I have to say, the stick is stronger than the eau de toilette, the modern eau de toilette.
Wow.
It is.
Is it because of the resins? I mean, what do they use in the deodorant stick?
I don't know.
Or oil?
I'm not sure.
Because the eau de toilette doesn't have any oily consistency. Like when you put it on the skin, it's you feel like it's like water. You know, some perfumes when you spray them. Yeah. Yeah. Some perfumes you put them on the skin, you spray them on, and you have that kind of glistening, oily. Like you see that they're oily.
It's not concentrated enough. Sorry. It doesn't have the right amount of essential oils. That's why it doesn't last.
So they're really like they're going cheap on us there.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Why is Chanel doing this? Do you think they're doing the same with Coco?
I'm not sure. I think Coco is still pretty strong.
Mm-hmm. Have you ever smelled the pure perfume of Coco?
I have tried it. It is pretty close to the eau de parfum, but it's deeper.
I'm also looking at it now. It's also the color. This is something that's so fascinating to me. The color of the pure perfume, for lack of a better word, but then again, when we talk about perfumes, we got to talk about secretions. It looks like dehydrated piss. Like
so does number 22.
Yeah, but it's it's almost like a green yellow. Mm-hmm. And the eau de toilette is like a powdery amber.
Amber, yeah.
And the eau de parfum is like a more like a yellow. Brown. Well, depends how fresh it is.
Yeah.
But the pure perfume is like, we're talking yellow, like neon yellow. neon yellow green color. It's like so insane. So it's the way it looks is so different from the other concentrations. And in fact, even the way it smells is, how did you describe it again, the perfume?
Deeper. Similar to EDP, but deeper and not really stronger, because Chanel pure perfumes are not strong and they stay pretty close to the skin. It's just deeper in smell.
Yeah, it is. But I also have to say, because I hunted down a tester, which is a spray bottle. So when you spray it, a lot comes out. I do get that oily texture on the skin. Mm-hmm. And when you do spray it, rather than dab it with a stopper, so if you spray it, it's strong, but it lasts really long.
Because it penetrates the skin, the sprayer.
Probably.
Yes.
But we're talking at least 7 hours more than than what the eau de parfum would deliver on my skin. Although I do smell the odor. And you know what I noticed the other day? Now that we're like in isolation and the pandemic is kicking our butts, um, I so before with all the jobs I had, rushing everywhere, like definitely shower every day, sometimes twice a day. Now I don't shower every day. It's every other day probably. Uh, and also I'm trying to let my skin heal because showering every day is actually not good for your skin.
Hair too. Let
Ha-
it breathe.
yeah, hair is also not good to wash it every day. But I've noticed that my own body oil balance is becoming better. It's healing. It's like my skin is finding its own balance again. And because it's finding its own balance, it's dealing with perfumes in a different way.
They last longer on your skin?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Now they last longer on my skin because I have more oil, my own oil. And so I was very surprised the other day when I put on, after a long time that I didn't, but I put on Coco Eau de Parfum. And it went on and on and on, like an entire day. And in the dry down, it smelled very, not incensey, like, not like church incense, but it smelled like a dry, it smelled the same way that the body cream of Coco smelled. And when I smelled the body cream of Coco, I thought, oh, this is so dry. I don't know if I like this because I like the wet aspect of Coco. But now that on my skin, I started to smell out the dryness of it. And all of a sudden, the eau de parfum is very similar to the cream. So I'm contemplating purchasing the cream.
I have never tried the cream. I have to.
But I don't understand why Chanel is going cheap there too. Like the cream is literally, it's, if, again, we're comparing it to opium again, but like if you open the glass jar of the cream, of opium's cream, and you open it, you take the lid off, and you flip the jar upside down.
It stays solid.
It stays solid. If you open the jar of cocoa cream and you flip it upside down, it's just going to pour out.
Well, they make it's probably water based. It absorbs quicker to the skin, into the skin, and I mean it's easier to use, but I don't know if it's enough. Is it enough for you, for your skin type?
You mean it's easier to use because it glides easier on the skin?
Yes, it absorbs quickly.
Maybe that's a thing, but I mean, if you're spending so much money on a luxury cream, you don't want the consistency of a body lotion. You want the consistency of a body cream. And it disappears on your skin immediately. Yeah, I get it. Your skin absorbs it, but I don't know. I mean, we remember the other day we were reading the ingredients of the opium cream, and I mean, it's also water-based.
But there is also dimethicone in it.
I think
that's the reason it's so thick in consistency.
But I think the cocoa cream also has it. Wait, let me check. I'm going to check online, guys. We're going on the Chanel website. Oh, they have a new photo of the pure perfume of Chanel No. 5. Okay, we're going to look into that later. Okay, let me go to Coco. Because they do list their ingredients.
Yeah.
The jar isn't that special. Like, they could have made an effort. I have the feeling that they're just kind of like phasing out their body range, the bath range, so they're just not really caring that much. I don't know.
Because it's not selling. Probably why.
Yeah, but it's not selling because they're not promoting it, or people, or it's too expensive.
Or they don't like the fragrance, for example. Coco is not for everyone.
No, but okay, but I mean, literally, only Chanel Number 5 and Coco Mademoiselle have this like crazy bath range.
Because they're bestsellers.
Yeah. Okay, so information. So this thing has, oh my God, Latin. Okay, so it has aqua, water.
Yeah, so it's water-based.
Then, but so is opium's cream, and then it has an alkyl benzoate, propylene glycol, octyl.
So glycolic acid. No, I don't think that's okay.
Propylene glycol, then octyl dodecyl, neopentanoate.
Okay, pentanol. That's also moisturizing.
It's neopentanoate. I don't know. Cetyl alcohol, glyceryl stearate.
So the alcohol is before the glycerin. Ooh, that's why. That's why it's so watery.
And then it has dimethicone.
Yeah.
PEG 40 stearate, aluminum starch, octenyl succinate. Okay, girl. Are these all drag names? Hydroxethyl acrylate, sodium acryloledimethyl. Oh my God. Taurate, copolymer, phenoxyethanol.
So again, alcohol.
Squalane. Oh,
squalane is really good.
Really?
Oh, that's really good for the skin, yes.
Squalane. Like, what's your drag name? Squalane.
Squalane. Miss Squalane.
Miss Squalane. Tocopherol acetate, chlorphenazine, benzyl salicylate, limonene, citronellol, polysorbate 60, geraniol, sorbitan, tristierate, eugenol, benzyl alcohol.
Again, alcohol. Oh, God.
Ethyl exyl glycerin, coumarin, linalol, sorbitan, isoterate, alpha isomethyl ionone.
Where's the perfume?
Cinnamyl alcohol. Oh, perfume was up there. It was like on the 6th position.
So the list is really long.
Citral, benzyl benzoate, cinnamol, farnesol, isoeugenol, and tocopherol.
That's a lot of chemicals.
And so, I mean, I'm no chemist, so I have no clue if any of these are really bad for you or if any of these are really good for you.
I didn't hear a lot of good ingredients on the list.
And I'm sure aluminum is not a good thing.
So it's like deodorizing.
Aluminum starch, octenyl succinate. That's one product.
Mm-hmm.
So aluminum starch, octenyl succinate. I would have to Google what that even means, but I don't know why would it. Oh, because somebody might use the cream under their armpits?
Who does that? I don't know.
I mean, if you cream your whole body, maybe you do.
Yeah.
But
as a deodorant, because they use that in deodorants to neutralize the smell.
Yeah, I know. And aluminum, they say it's like cancerogenous, so they like you should not.
Yeah.
Oh, well, too late for that. Been using aluminum deodorant for like ever. And dimethicone?
It's a silicone.
Why would they add a silicone to the cream?
Because it glides on the skin. It's actually not bad for your skin. I like dimethicone.
Well, does it do anything good for the skin or is it just for the feeling?
It's like a shield on the skin. It protects your skin.
And
but you have to wash it off.
You have to?
Yeah, like in the morning.
Well, yeah, when you shower, you wash it off.
Yeah, at night too.
And what about the neopentanoate?
Is it pentanol?
Well, I don't know if it's from the same family, but it says neopentanoate.
I don't know. Because pentanol is also moisturizing ingredient, but I don't know if it's that.
And you were saying before that the squalane is a good one.
Yes, it is.
Is it a plant or is it an artificial ingredient?
Oh, I forgot what it's a natural ingredient, yes.
And is it there to hydrate?
To moisturize.
Huh.
Because there is a difference between moisturizing and hydrating.
So hydrating is more like nourishing and feeding the skin, and moisturizing is just in the surface, or the other way around?
For example, you can have oily skin, but it's dehydrated, so you have to hydrate it with, for example, glycerin is a hydrator. It's made out of sugar most of the time. A moisturizer is squalane.
Well, so wait,
it's complex. It's a lot.
So wait a minute. So if you have oily skin,
it can still be dehydrated.
Yeah, this I know. Like I have oily skin, but it's dry, so I need to hydrate it.
Yeah.
Not moisturize it.
For example.
So I don't need to moisturize it. I just need to hydrate it.
I mean, you can do both.
Huh. But do you use different ingredients to do each one of the two steps, hydration and moisturization?
It can be both in one.
Oh, okay. So there could be like one ingredient that covers both.
Yes.
Okay.
Not one ingredient, like a mixture of ingredients.
Mm-hmm. Well,
for example, glycerin and a pentanol at the same time. Or even a paraffin is a moisturizer.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought it's just like really oily and clunky.
Well, when the mixture of ingredients is mixed well, then it's not going to be like that.
Interesting. Well, the cream has these ingredients, which I so poorly pronounced before. And as I said, if you were to flip the jar upside down with an open lid, it would just kind of pour out. And on the skin, and the dry down of the cream smells of this really dry, I want to say chalk. Yeah, that's the thing. It's like a chalky dryness. And that chalky dryness is also in the eau de toilette.
Is that the incense?
Could we say the incense has a chalky...
Incense to me smells dry and wet at the same time. It can be chalky.
You know, yes. And one of my favorite incenses is a Poponux, and the Poponux is in Coco.
Mm-hmm.
Poponux is, by the way, also in Poison.
Yes.
A Poponux can be dry. But I'm thinking, can a Poponux be chalky? I'm not so sure.
Maybe in combination with other notes.
Maybe the labdanum.
Mm-hmm.
But labdanum is... What's labdanum? It's a resin.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. It's actually a resin. Even though they call it the rock rose, right? But it's a...
I mean, the picture they use on Fragrantic is always like a flower.
Yes, it is a flower, but the smell doesn't come from the flower. It comes from the bottom part. And you know the story of the little goats in Cyprus, because they eat whatever they eat, and then they kind of come across these the rock roses, which first were kind of transformed into perfumes in Cyprus. And they would eat them, and then they come back to their owners, and they have like their little beards, the little goat beards are full of the resin drops, and they smell so particular. That's labdanum for you, but labdanum doesn't have chalkiness at all. It's more like a deep, like tasty, rich, dense smell.
Maybe it's the woods in combination with powder.
Yeah. And you know what it could be, actually? The mimosa.
Oh yes.
And coriander? Coriander, no. But the mimosa is a very, very powdery, like a dry, powdery smell.
You can feel it in your throat when you smell it.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
Oh my God, there were some kids in high school, they would smoke mimosa.
Oh.
I don't know, like how, why, but they did. Crazy kids.
I don't know if you've ever smelled Une fleur de cassis by Frederic Malle. That one has a lot of mimosa in it. It's so dry. It chokes you.
Yeah, mimosa is that dry. But I think it could be the mimosa then. But I'm looking also what people are listing and under the smells that they smell the most for Coco. And now we're in the eau de toilette category, and they're definitely putting the clove on first spot. For the eau de parfum, clove also takes the first spot, but interestingly, for the eau de toilette, on second spot is the rose, and third is sandalwood, while the eau de parfum has clove, and then comes the amber accord, and then the rose.
And then the rose. And then civet, I think.
No, sandalwood.
Sandalwood, okay.
Civet is even further down the line in the eau de toilette. It's on the 8th position. And it's on the 7th position in the eau de parfum and the pure perfume. Okay, I don't agree with that. So the pure perfume lists the rose on the first spot.
Oh, okay.
But we're talking about what people perceive as the most present ingredient.
But also the list of notes on Fragrantica is not always correct.
It's not always correct, and oftentimes they change stuff. So yeah, we know that. But we also know that rose is present in Coco. But this is about the votes. It's like what people smell out the most in the perfume. And then they vote. So 224 votes for rose, and then 223 votes for clove. So it's just one vote less, but nevertheless, the rose for me in the pure perfume is not that. And the civet is on 4th position. Coriander is 3rd. I mean, and let's not forget that Coco has peach in it as well.
Oh yes, especially in the opening, it's very prominent. And orange too. Do you smell it?
In the pure perfume, less.
In the eau de parfum.
Yes, I do smell. But is it orange or is it more? Wait, I'm smelling it.
Mandarin. Clementine.
Like for me, it's more like orange blossom and jasmine.
But also frangipani. That's what I smell in the opening. In the EDP. The tropical white floral.
Yeah, and this is interesting. It's the eau de parfum definitely is more tropical than oriental.
Yes.
The eau de toilette is perhaps more oriental. because it doesn't have that wet, like a tropical smell also has a certain type of wetness to it. You're thinking about a tropical forest, about humidity.
Mm-hmm.
And Orient doesn't have that. The Orient is more like a smoke, dryness. So Eau de Toilette is more oriental. Eau de Parfum is more tropical. The Pure Perfume, oof, after smelling all of them together, the Pure Perfume becomes almost medicinal.
Mm-hmm.
It's like clinical. Oddly enough, the soap like unites all of them.
But the soap is so powdery in a woodsy way.
Yeah, isn't it delicious?
Mm-hmm. But when you use it, it doesn't smell good.
Yeah, it kind of loses its power when it mixes with water.
It smells like regular soap.
Yeah, it becomes very delicate. Like you really have to rub a lot of it on your hands to have to like get the scent. But I get the same with Chanel number 5. The only Chanel soap that really has a wonderful, wonderful fragrance on your skin after washing your hands is number 19.
I have never tried. I mean, I've never had it. I wanted to get it, but they didn't have it.
Yeah, they discontinued that one too a couple of months ago. Crazy Chanel.
And deodorant of the number 19 is a joke. I have to say that.
Oh, really?
Oh, yes. It doesn't smell like number 19. And it's not really a deodorant. It's like a body spray.
Really? But do they suggest you to spray it over the body or just armpits?
Armpits, but it doesn't work like a deodorant.
So, like, you're stinky after you put it on?
Immediately.
Oh, so it doesn't protect.
No. It's like a body spray.
But did you try Coco's deodorant?
I have not, no.
Coco is interesting the way that it was advertised and promoted, the concept of, because before Coromandel came out, and the Coromandel panels of Chanel in 31 Rue Cambon are the symbol of Coromandel. Before Coromandel came out, the Coromandel panels were the symbol of Coco.
Mm-hmm.
So I always attributed the visuals of the Coromandel panels in Coco's apartment to Coco. And it makes also more sense because her name is Coco, she loved the Coromandel panels, and the perfume's name is Coco. So it all blended together, and all of a sudden we have a fragrance called Coromandel, which represents the panels, but not Coco, the woman who loved the panels. So it almost looks like Coromandel is the background. The Coromandel, the perfume, is background to Coco, the perfume.
But it's not nearly as good.
Well, that's debatable. I think Coco is more complex than Coromandel, but Coromandel is deeper than Coco.
You think so?
Yeah, and I think it's the patchouli that really, the type of patchouli they used in Coromandel, and especially in the Pure Perfume, which when you put it on your skin, it's oil. Like that perfume, and I have the first batch made. So I don't know if they're going to go cheap on us, in the future when the newer batches come out. But usually when they just release a fragrance, the first releases, they always make an effort to make them good. It's oily. And it goes really deep it's a green patchouli oily smell.
When I smell Coromandel, all I smell is amber, sweet amber.
That's bizarre.
I've never cared about it, honestly. I have a mini of the Eau de Parfum. I mean, it's okay, but I would never wear it or buy it.
It's the easiest one to discover once you're using, once you get into the Les Exclusives range, because it's the one that screams out. And I've said this in my review. And it's the one that like shouts at you, like, look at me, look at me. Because it's the easiest one to discover, because it's the loudest. The hardest ones to discover are number 18, 28, La Pausa, Bel Respiro. Those are the ones that you discover last, because they don't need to scream.
Yeah.
So Coromandel was also the first one that stuck out to me when the whole range was released. but it's definitely not as complex as Coco. But it is deeper in terms of the smell is heavier.
It's not Chanel to me. It's very similar to Prada Amber.
Okay.
It's very similar to it. Also to what is it called? From Dior, Patchouli Imperial.
Oh, I don't think they're similar. I have both of them.
Oh, they're really similar to me. They're absolutely similar. Okay. But it's way better than Coromandel.
Okay, well, I'm smelling. I just so happen to have both of them here next to me right now. No.
It's the same concept. Patchouli, yeah.
To me, they're different. Patchouli Imperial is like a younger, fresher, wet version of patchouli. And Coromandel is a...
It's sweet. It's the white chocolate. To me, Patchouli Imperial is greener than Coromandel.
Yes, it is greener than Coromandel, but also it smells kind of like more contemporary. Coromandel smells like contemporary because we didn't have those smells in the past, so you know that it smells contemporary, but it's a perfume that is built today to smell like it comes from another time. Mm-hmm. So the concept of it is, okay, it's modern, but it brings us back the memory of a glorious, decadent, luxurious past. And it does work in that respect, because you do smell out that there's something new about it, but it smells like something from a time that's long gone. While Patchouli Imperial, even though in the name Imperial sounds like something that is gone and past, it still delivers a very fresh, youthful, very, very elegant and sophisticated patchouli. Nothing heavy or like cheap, because I have my issues with patchouli, but
I mean, I've never cared for it. It's not. I don't like it, honestly. And I think it's the least Chanel of the Chanel, les exclusives.
I would say Boy
and it's the easiest one to like.
I would say Boy is less Chanel. And also 1957. Everything that Olivier did.
You think so? I love 1957. I think it's very Chanel, actually.
It's a nice one, but it's not so Chanel, no. And also, I think what is also not so Chanel is Gabrielle.
Gabrielle? Really?
I don't think it's Chanel, no.
I mean, it's like a metallic version of Coco Mademoiselle. That's how I see it.
Yeah, I don't know. But Coco Mademoiselle, I got used to it and I love it, but it's also not really Chanel.
I think it is Chanel because all of these perfumes like Coco Mademoiselle, Gabrielle, they're all inspired by Allure.
Yeah, another one that came way after Coco's time. You know what I mean? It's like Allure is an interesting fragrance. I never really fell in love with it. I love the hair mist.
I love the eau de toilette. I think it's beautiful.
But yeah, you see, it's one that I can't really... It doesn't call for me. Allure Sensuelle, again, patchouli bomb, is interesting. And I like its sophistication, but personally, I never find myself going for it, like craving it as much as I crave Coco. Mm-hmm. Coco is one that, to me, has rooted itself inside of me as a classic Chanel. To me, Coco is, I'm not saying it's as good as Chanel No. 5, but it's, together with Chanel No. 5, the quintessential Chanel perfume.
To be honest, I like Coco more than I like No. 5. I used to think that I like No. 5 more, but no, not really. I think Coco is my favorite Chanel perfume.
Oh, okay, that's a statement.
Oh yes. Followed by Cristal.
Wow, so it's Coco and then...
Parfum, and then number 22. Eau de Toilette.
So number 1 is Coco Eau de Parfum.
Yes, followed by Cristal Eau de Parfum. If you only knew how many bottles I went through.
So we have to make a podcast on Cristal then. How many bottles of Cristal Eau de Parfum did you go through?
Oh. I have to think about it. So I just finished one today.
Oh my God. He's like, yeah, I opened a bottle yesterday. I finished it today. 24 hours and bottle done.
I think 5 or 6 bottles of Cristal.
Wow. Okay, so you really love it. And you love the Jacques Polge version.
All the time, yeah.
So you love the Jacques Polge version. You're not a fan of the Henri Robert version.
Oh, I love the Eau de Toilette, but I wear the Eau de Parfum a lot.
So it's Coco.
Cristal.
Cristal 22.
22. And then number 19.
Oh my God, so Chanel number 5 is literally number 5.
It used to be number 1, actually, but I don't wear it anymore. It's been years, actually.
Oh, wow. Because I literally just the other day wore it massively all over my body. The Eau de Parfum. Mm-hmm. I bathe in it. I don't know what it is about Chanel number 5. There's something about it that it's not a perfume to me. It's like it's more than a perfume because it's like white. You know, white is all colors together. Like they say white is not a color. White is when you put all the colors of the world together, you get white.
I used to wear number 5 all the time. Even in high school, I used to wear dupes of it. Can you imagine?
Yes, I can.
I have 35 ml of the Eau de Parfum. I've had it for like 3 years now, and it's still like 1/3 full.
Okay, so you're not wearing it.
No, not at all. I love the Eau de Toilette. I used to wear the Eau de Toilette all the time.
And the pure perfume?
I have it. I wear it. I don't wear it. I like to smell it.
Well, that's fascinating because to me, smelling it out of the bottle is not the same.
Not out of the bottle. I spray it on my hand, and I just smell it. I don't wear it. Does it make sense?
If you sprayed it on your hand, then you're wearing it.
Yeah, but I don't go out. I just stay at home and smell it.
Oh yeah, but I do that too. I mean, I love Chanel number 5 is a very intimate thing. I mean, the pure perfume, that's what I wanted to say. I don't smell it out of the bottle as much as because to me it takes a long time till it gets to that magical dry down. Mm-hmm. And so you have to put it on your skin and you have to wait, and then the pure perfume at a certain point just like switches into that dry down mode where okay, then you're like, okay, what the fuck? This is effortless, timeless. This isn't even a perfume. This is just like, it's the color white. It's literally the color white. It's all the possible ingredients in the world, all scents put together. You get the smell of white. And to me, that's the dry down of Chanel number 5. And by white, I don't want to say people should mistake it with, oh, it's a white floral. No, that's not what I'm saying.
Not at all.
Not at all. I'm talking about the color white.
I used to think that number 5 smells like soap, but not anymore.
I can see why you thought that. Yeah, I can see that. But that's the same reason why Coco has a soapiness to it. And
yeah. But it's a dusty soapiness.
Yeah. Well, it's the iris, I think.
Mm-hmm.
In number 5. Coco isn't irisy. Although, I still believe there's orris root in here, even though it's not listed. No, don't you think? Coco with orris root?
Let me smell.
I don't know. I don't know why, but...
Maybe a hint of it.
Maybe it's the apoponax that kind of tricks you into thinking that, I don't know.
Actually, do you know where the dryness is coming from?
Well, we were debating that before. We thought that it could be apoponax and mimosa.
Now I'm realizing that it's the rose.
Really?
Yeah, it's the same thing that's in boudoir, that dry rose.
No, again, in boudoir, it's the marigold that's dry.
The rose too. It's a dry rose. It's a very dry, dusty rose.
Well, I can give you that because in the eau de parfum, the rose is present twice, top notes and middle notes.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like a overdose of rose. But you know, I don't smell out the rose that much in Coco.
It's there. It is there.
Is it like a resinous, like a rose mixed with amber, or rose mixed with
It's
resin?
like a dusty rose wrapped in amber.
See, this is so bizarre with perfumes. Like now that you say it, and now that I'm visualizing it, I can smell it.
Mm-hmm.
But before I visualized it, I couldn't smell it.
I mean, it's the same thing like when you describe boudoir as this post-coital smell. I don't smell that. I don't smell any of that. I just smell a dusty rose, like dusty florals, a dirty bubble gum, but it's not animalic or stinky.
No, it's not supposed to be stinky. It's actually a post-coital smell is a good smell because when all the hormones are activated, it's like an attraction field that activates, and everything is active and in bloom. So technically, it's supposed to be a good smell. It's a smell that attracts you. It lures you in. It makes your desire awaken. So I think that's what Vivian meant by her description. Depending on the moral background a person has, you could say, oh, sexuality is something dirty. But I don't think for Vivian, I don't think she sees it as something dirty. However, the marigold flower is quite a earthy, it's like soil. It's a soily, earthy, dirty green smell.
Yeah.
And so I think that's the thing mixed with tobacco, honey, rose. That's what gives that skankiness in a good way. But yeah. And similar to, I have to say, in a way, with Coco, even though it doesn't have that marigold and it doesn't go in that plebeian vulgar, like in a good way, you know, like because Vivian is all about the cocotte, she's all about blending all different social structures into one concept. So for her, the concept, the ancient concept of plebeian and of cocotte and of aristocracy all mixed together, and the one can wear the clothes of the other, the one can smell of the perfume of the other. And so boudoir is a place, as the name says, boudoir, where everybody can meet, the rich and the poor. You know what I mean? Like once you take your clothes off, you're just a naked person and you have lust, or you don't, but that's it. But now we veered off track. Where were we?
We were talking about Coco.
Coco is, Coco. We're going loco for Coco.
We went from Coco to Ho Ho.
Yeah. Ho Ho Chanel. Oh my God. Oh, Jesus Christ. Oh, well, we went over an hour. We're 1 hour and 12 minutes.
Really? Oh.
You see what I mean? It's like quickly over. We should wrap it up also, because otherwise who's going to tune in and listen to us blabber on about Ho Ho? Okay, so first I want to say thank you so much for tuning in and joining the conversation, and
thank you for having me.
Thank you for being part of podcast Super Dacob podcast number 004. All about Coco and more, as we realized that talking about one fragrance can never really be limited to talking just about one fragrance.
One leads to another.
One leads to another. And since we are human beings that are creative in their nature, we cannot just limit ourselves to one framework of thought. There's freedom of expression, there's freedom of thought, and that's why it's also so beautiful that thoughts can fly from one part to the other, from one perfume to the other. Now, thank you so much to Eaumilio for joining us, and I wish you all a wonderful day. Please consider subscribing to my channel here on YouTube. I'm also on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, superdacob, all spelled together. And I'm also on Patreon. And to that effect, I would like to thank all my patrons for helping out. Over on Patreon, you get to see videos before they hit YouTube, but you also get to see exclusive videos that never come to YouTube and stay exclusive to Patreon. Also, all the videos on Patreon are ad-free, while ads run through the videos on YouTube. Thank you guys so much for watching. Until next time, never forget to never give up on love. Love you all. See you soon. Take care. Bye.